That movement will be explained in a little greater detail today. We are seeking policy changes and moving forward with the litigation, not personal gain. And as an explanation of that, Ms. Fitzgerald will read a mission statement and her goals and moving forward. And with that, I leave it to Ms. Fitzgerald.
Shelly Fitzgerald for Shelly for Change.
Good afternoon. My name is Shelly Fitzgerald, and I am a proud gay woman who has been in a loving and committed relationship for 22 years. 4 years ago, I fulfilled the lifelong dream by marrying my wife, Victoria, and together we have raised an amazing daughter, Sophie, who is the love of our life. Recently, I was thrust into the spotlight as a result of adverse action that has been taken against me by my employers, the Archdiocese of Indianapolis and Roncalli High School. And this is my story. I graduated from Roncalli High School in 1991. During my time there, I was conflicted. I struggled to be my true self. I had difficulty understanding how my sexuality related to my faith as a Catholic. My resources then were limited. There was no support network for someone like me, and in fact, there were times during high school where I contemplated taking my life. The struggle was real. After graduating from Roncalli, I was eventually able to live my truth. I was able to fall in love with a wonderful woman and become comfortable with who I am. I grew to realize that I was a child of God, made in His image, and that I was not damaged goods. There was no doubt in my mind that I was exactly the person that God intended me to be. After graduating from college, my path led me back to Roncalli, and in one form or another, either as a substitute teacher or a coach, I remained involved with the school. After earning my master's degree in 2004, I was hired on full-time as a school counselor. It was like I had never left. For the past 15 years, I have served in that role, and after the first 3 years, I was named co-director of guidance. Until recently, it was my dream job. The old saying, do what you love and you will never work a day in your life. That was my story. I knew that I was blessed to have that opportunity, and every day I had the honor and privilege to work with amazing people and amazing students. Over the years, friendships were forged, and I formed bonds with students and families that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Roncalli was my family. Roncalli was my life. My employment position was so much more than a job to me. And then it fell apart. A little bit more than a week into the current school year, I was called to meet with Dr. Joe Hollowell, Roncalli's president, and Roncalli principal Chuck Weisenbach. There was a problem. Someone had turned in my marriage license to them, and in short, I was going to be let go. However, I had options. Number one, I could dissolve my marriage. Number two, I could resign. Number three, I could quietly ride out until the end of the school year with the understanding that my contract would not be renewed at the end of the year. And four, if I chose to ride out the school year, I would risk early termination if information about my situation became too boisterous. Without hesitation, I informed both gentlemen that I had no intention of resigning, and I certainly was not going to dissolve my marriage. I had no intention of walking away quietly and letting people believe that I chose to walk away from a job and community that I love so much. I told them that they were wrong. I told them that they were making a mistake and that the fallout from this decision would not be a good one. My words fell on deaf ears. What would I tell my family? What would I tell my wife? That day when I went home, I was devastated. My world no longer made sense. Where would I go? What would I do now? What would people think? Where does this leave my students? To say I was lost is an understatement. I did what any other person would do in times of stress and pain. I reached out for support. I contacted my family and my closest friends, and I explained what had happened. I told them about my meeting with Chuck and Joe, and I sought advice. I sought reassurance, and I sought love. But most of all, I prayed, and I sought God's love. Little did I know my entire world was about to change. My family and friends took up my cause like their life depended on it. Social media exploded. Word spread throughout the community. My phone started blowing up. My emails started blowing up. Social media started exploding, and I was in awe. I was overwhelmed. Support began to flow in from everywhere. My heart began to overflow from the outpouring of love and support. Within 24 hours, word got back to the Archdiocese and Roncalli, and people from all areas of my life, including my family, co-workers, and students, rallied behind me, and in one voice they cried out, "This is wrong." By that Sunday, 2 days after my meeting, I got a message from Chuck Weisenbach. I had been placed on paid administrative leave, and I was banned from the Roncalli campus. I was hurt. I had been banned. Seriously, I had been banned? What threat do I pose? That same day, the Archdiocese issued a written statement, which was posted to Roncalli's social media and the Archdiocese website. In bold letters, it was proclaimed in essence that Shelly Fitzgerald was being placed on paid administrative leave for marrying a woman, and it was then that I had realized I had been outed to the world. Which brings us to today, my mission. I never wanted to be the voice for advocacy. I never asked to be thrust into the spotlight. I was entirely comfortable working my dream job and living happily with my wife and daughter. Evidently, God had different plans for me. And now that my story has gained worldwide attention, I feel compelled to speak out. It is my responsibility and my duty to use this platform for change. It is my mission to simply convince the Catholic Church and Catholic high schools across the U.S. to implement positive and permanent policy changes that affirm the LGBT+ community and acknowledge the rights bestowed upon that community by the rule of law. I am not here to change the teachings of the Catholic Church. I am not here to wish to rewrite the Bible. I simply hope to emulate the brave gay men and women who were pioneers in this cause before me. People like Ellen DeGeneres and Harvey Milk, my friends Carol Trexler, and even my Aunt Mary Fitzgerald. I want to use my voice to speak out for all members of the LGBT+ community who did not have the ability or the resources to fight discrimination in the past. I want to use my voice to speak out for all of those people who are living in fear, hoping every day that their choice to love one another or to love another person will not get them fired or persecuted. I want to use my voice for change. I want to use my voice for good, for love, for acceptance, and for understanding. My story has created a wonderful opportunity for the Indianapolis Archdiocese and Roncalli High School to emulate the long list of successful and internationally respected colleges and universities that are welcoming and affirming of LGBT+ staff and students. Schools such as the University of Notre Dame, St. Mary's College, University of Dayton, Creighton University, Xavier University, Marian University, and Boston College are just some of the colleges and universities offering same-sex benefits today. They began to offer these benefits as soon as the federal courts and the federal government recognized same-sex marriages as legal. Can a Catholic institution exist in a larger society with different views? This precedent has already been set, and the answer is yes. Now, will the Archdiocese of Indianapolis and Roncalli follow in their footsteps? With that in mind, my mission is to use my voice to compel the Archdiocese of Indianapolis to make the following policy changes. Number 1, change the contract which prevent LGBT employees of the Archdiocese from being in a same-sex marriage. Number 2, extend benefits to spouses of LGBT employees in a same-sex marriage. Number 3, offer employment to LGBT employees of the Archdiocese fired under the old contract. And 4, allow the formation of a national chapter of the Gay-Straight Alliance in all Catholic schools. Why are these changes important to me? In the words of Sister Janine Gramick, co-founder of New Ways Ministry, I choose not to collaborate in my own oppression. For me to accept anything less than the full rights and benefits enjoyed by every other citizen of the United States of America is unacceptable. I cannot support discrimination in any way, shape, or form. Don't get me wrong. I love Roncalli. I always have loved Roncalli, and I always will love Roncalli. It is time to make things better. It is time for us to start living what we teach. We need to be more loving, we need to be more accepting, and we need to be more welcoming to everyone, just as Jesus did and just as Jesus called us to do. I am not doing this for money or for fame. That is not who I am. It's never been who I am, and it will never be who I am. I am simply doing this for change. Many people have said to me, both in person and over social media, just go work somewhere else. It's not that simple. There were many times while working at Roncalli, I was offered jobs at nearly twice the pay, and every time I turned them down because, as I said before, Roncalli was my family. Roncalli was my life. I feel as though I've been disowned from the Catholic Church and by Roncalli. I feel being banned from the school that I love, and I have been prohibited from doing the job that I love. I have been banned from working side by side with the friends that I love. There are many others in this very position all over the United States today. They do their jobs well, they are faithful, but they live in silence, fearing that they will lose their jobs because the church has been permitted to behave in this manner. This is not what Jesus would do. Up until this point, I have sat patiently waiting to hear my own fate. In the face of that moment, I have remained kind, I have remained respectful and positive. My heart has remained full of love, and my faith has only grown stronger. However, my wait is over. Today, I take my fate into my own hands. The movement starts now, and I will not rest until changes are made, and not until the church has fully heard Shelly's voice.
So does that mean that Mrs. Fitzgerald is not working on Roncalli? I mean, after that impassioned statement, can she come back to the mic and explain what that really means? Is she no longer with Roncalli, ma'am? Can you?
I'm still on paid.
Ma'am, read on the mic, please, ma'am. Can you please?
I'm still on paid administrative leave from Roncalli. My charge has always been that I would love for them to implement these changes and would love for them to work with us. We just haven't heard anything back from them yet in terms of these changes.
So, ma'am, can you clarify, when you say, I take my fate into my own hands, the movement starts now, is that a call to the school system?
What we're saying is we're tired of waiting for them to make a decision. We're taking it to them.
And what does that mean? I don't know
Well,
what that means.
We're initiating litigation. We're going after them.
Thank you, sir.
Shelly has lots of support, and it's inspiring. But I'm going to introduce people here of who they're with, and they'll come up and introduce themselves. The first person to speak will be Indiana Youth Group.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Paulson, CEO with Indiana Youth Group. Indiana Youth Group, also known as IYG, supports LGBTQ youth and their straight allies, ages 12 to 20. IYG is proud to partner with Shelly's Voice Advocacy Group to support youth who are trying to make Indiana an open, welcoming place for people regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. IYG oversees the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, also known as GSAs, for schools statewide. This network is dedicated to supporting and connecting LGBTQ youth all over the state through GSA and Equality Alliance clubs in schools and community centers. IYG is happy to announce today the formation of an unaffiliated GSA to serve any students whose schools does not allow them such a program on site. The group will meet at IYG and will provide a safe space for students to discuss issues that affect LGBTQ youth. It's an unfortunate fact that the LGBT suicide rate is 4 times that of the straight youth, and over 50% of transgender youth will attempt suicide. Indiana ranks second in the nation in youth who attempt suicide, second in the nation. The support that LGBTQ youth receive at school is critical to their well-being. IYG is forming this unaffiliated GSA to ensure that youth without proper support at school are supported by caring adults through IYG. For over 30 years, IYG has supported youth whose voice has been ignored or silenced. We're proud to continue the important advocacy work that needs to be done in Indiana to assure that all youth's voices and lives are equally valued, heard, and respected.
The next group is Dignity USA.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Ann Duddy-Burke, and I serve as the Executive Director of Dignity USA. Dignity USA is the national organization of Catholics committed to justice, equality, and full inclusion of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex people in our church and society. We are now in our 50th year of providing affirming spiritual community, education, and advocacy for the LGBTQI and ally Catholic community. I'm here today alongside leaders of our local community, Dignity Indianapolis. We're here today and stand firmly with Shelly Fitzgerald, Shelly's Voice, and with all LGBTQI people and allies who have been terminated from jobs and volunteer roles at Catholic schools, parishes, and service agencies. Unfortunately, the issue of Catholic organizations firing gay and transgender employees and volunteers is one that has persisted throughout our 5 decades of work. We have assisted literally hundreds of people who have been terminated from jobs that they loved and did very well. They were fired because someone in authority objected to an LGBTQI person or an ally working for the church, or because some self-appointed guardian of the faith exposed this person's identity or civil marriage. In not a single case that we've worked on has there been a suggestion that this person was failing at their job or doing anything wrong. It was simply about who they were, whom they loved, or what they believed. It is long past time for the modest proposal that Shelly and her supporters are making to become standard practice here in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis and across the nation. It is tragic and even ironic that we are standing here today addressing this. Our church has a rich tradition of standing for workers' rights, calling for just working conditions, freedom from discrimination, and recognition that work is sacred. These beliefs are found in countless Vatican documents and statements from the U.S. Catholic bishops. We're here to say we expect our church leaders to adhere to the same standards they demand of other employers, and to treat those who work in Catholic institutions with justice and respect. In addition, I want to remind all the members of our church that it is not necessary for Catholic institutions to discriminate against LGBTQI people. As early as 1973, some Catholic hospitals, social service agencies, schools, and colleges were among the first employers in the U.S. to adopt non-discrimination policies that included sexual orientation, showing real leadership in this area. And as Shelly mentioned earlier, there are some Catholic employers, often colleges, hospitals, and other organizations reliant on public funding, that have figured out how to support the LGBTQI people, including married, lesbian, and gay people, that work for them. If inclusion is acceptable for these Catholic organizations, why must others reject the talents of LGBTQI people and strong allies? I'd also like for us to remember the words of Archbishop Thompson, spoken during the homily he gave during his installation Mass. There is wisdom here that should guide how we deal with one another and how our Catholic institutions should be seen. Archbishop Thompson said, "We must dare to counter the growing polarization, division, and radical individualism that breed fear, distrust, hatred, indifference, prejudice, selfishness, despair, violence, and radical ideology. Our role as people of faith, I especially hold myself accountable as bishop, is to be willing to stand in the breach of the divide, drawing people back from the ledges of extremism in self-indulgence and self-righteousness by serving as bridges of unity, ambassadors of hope, instruments of peace. To do so, we must allow the seed, as the gospel reminds us, the word of everlasting life, Jesus himself, to take root in the very rich soil of our very souls, of our beings. We must leave no one behind, especially being attentive to the unborn, the poor, the young, the elderly, the migrant, the immigrant, the refugee, the sick, the dying, the addicted, the abused, and the disenfranchised, the lonely, the hopeless, the imprisoned, and all who suffered. We must be concerned about the well-being of each and every person, as well as creation itself, if we are to be truly Christ-centered. what we do or fail to do for the least of his brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters, we do or fail to do for Jesus Christ. We agree with you, Archbishop Thompson. We must leave no one behind, including those who too often feel, and in fact are, disenfranchised in our church and society. We must remember that everyone involved, employees, administrators, community members, folks with whom we have disagreement, stand in the place of Christ, and our conversations, actions, and decisions must reflect our response to the question, is this how we would treat our Lord? People who work for Catholic organizations, like Shelly, do so because they support the gospel mandate and the church's mission. They believe in feeding the hungry, housing the homeless, caring for those who are ill or isolated, and educating those most in need of a chance to succeed. They are willing to do this for wages generally much lower than what they could make in other settings. They serve because they hear the call to serve God's people. This call does not discriminate based on gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, marital or relational status, or any other characteristic. We join our voice to Shelly's in calling on our church to end discrimination as well, so no other employee, family, or community has to endure the pain that has been experienced by Shelly, her family, the Roncalli community, and too many others across the country. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce New Ways Ministry. I'm sorry. Of who?
Shelly's voice.
Okay, I'm sorry, Shelly's Voice.
Good afternoon. We would like to start off by thanking Ms. Fitzgerald and her attorney, David Page, for including us in this conference. Shelly's Voice has had great admiration for their bravery and resilience during this time. We have truly looked up to Shelly these past few months as she walks down the path of being a constant champion for equality. Shelly set the example for what it is to look like to stand up for something you believe in. So here we are, 5 high school students who, through the creation of Shelly's Voice Advocacy Group, also wants to follow her lead. Shelly's Voice plans on giving our guidance counselor a 4th option that values her dignity and sanctity of her family. It is our mission and the mission of Shelly's Voice to inspire change in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis employee morality contract to allow the LGBT+ community the opportunity to shine their knowledge and talent as valid employees of the Catholic Church. We can all agree that the past couple months have been quite a journey. The members of Shelly's Voice has been hard at work attending numerous meetings to finalize all of our administrative tasks. We are proud to announce that Shelly's Voice has partnered with Indiana Youth Group. IYG, a leader in LGBTQ+ support for youth, will act as our fiduciary, I'm still learning that word, will act as our fiduciary agent and provide other resources to our group. We are thrilled to be walking this road of advocacy with IYG at our side. In addition to our partnership, we have created a website, multiple social media accounts, aided Catholic educational leaders to create a support group, and today we are announcing our next advocacy effort. Besides our brief appearance on The Ellen Show, we've had the opportunity to speak at the Southern Indiana Pride event in front of future senators, state representatives, and the Department of Education, and others involved in public office. We also were extremely honored and blessed to receive the Essex Pride Award from IUPUI's LGBTQ+ Center for being an exemplary organization that's serving Indianapolis's LGBTQ community.
So today, after months of preparation and advisement, Shelly's Voice has come to the point we are ready to officially take on our mission of inspiring change in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. It didn't take long for us to answer the question, how are we going to start our efforts? Because we always knew the power of the community. That is why we were happy to announce our December 4th launch party, sponsored by the Biltwell Event Center, where we will take the next steps in bringing an end to the discrimination of the Catholic LGBTQ community. Throughout the evening, the Indianapolis community will have the opportunity to write letters to church leaders, sign up to become a member of a Shelly's Voice committee, grab some Shelly's Voice gear, hear from the founders of Shelly's Voice, and get motivated for the months to come. We are truly looking forward to hosting our first event with our supporters and fellow advocates. We invite everyone to please RSVP at our website, shellysvoice.org. If you cannot make it and want to get involved, we invite you to see the many other ways you can support us through our website. You can inspire change by making your voices heard by the Catholic leaders. Our website gives you the opportunity to write a letter to a leader, and we will take care of printing and mailing it. High school students should be involved in one of our 6 committees: advancement, web promotions, social media, event coordination, marketing, or GSA coordination. We invite you to fill out an application on our website. Lastly, we invite you to follow us on social media to get the latest news about our efforts for Shelly and the whole LGBT+ community.
This prejudice, which the whole LGBT community, including myself, including our guidance counselor, Ms. Shelly Fitzgerald, see as a daily hurdle, is one that we plan on solving in our lifetime. It's not going to be easy, but we know that our schools, this city, this country, and the world deserves a more inclusive and compassionate future. The LGBT+ community deserves to no longer fall victim to prejudice and bigotry. Shelly's Voice will provide the community with yet another example of how positivity is the true agent behind any change. Shelly's Voice wants to end by reminding everyone listening to this conference that this is your movement. These efforts have no restrictions on age, political views, religion, sexual orientation, sexual identity, or race. Every single day, the phrase love is challenged by our society, and we believe that if you truly love our mission, nobody should get in your way. Every person in this room, in this city, and in the community is to call out the invalidity of this prejudice, because we have been taught the importance of standing up for what is right, to be the beacon of hope for the voiceless, the weak, and the innocent. It is up to us to stand up to any discrimination, because if each person stands up and says no to the bigotry and prejudice present in our world today, our future will be more inclusive than ever before. After we change the contract and reinstate the concept that discrimination is no longer accepted, we will continue to be lifelong crusaders for the LGBT+ community. We will continue to stand up for what is right until we no longer have to ask ourselves how much it will worsen, but rather how much it can get better. We will continue to fight against the harsh reality of modern-day discrimination by seeking to make one thing very clear. Love is truly love. Thank you.
After our last speaker, we'll open it up for questions, and I'm very proud to introduce Indiana State Senator J.D. Ford.
So how do I follow that? Can I just say ditto to the students? Well, good afternoon. I am Senator-elect J.D. Ford, and I represent the 29th District for the state of Indiana, which covers Carmel, Zionsville, Pike Township, and Wayne Township. And I am so honored to be here and to stand with you, Shelly. I've watched your story. I watched you on Ellen, and absolutely just kind of fell in love with your story, and I feel like your story and my story are very similar. Let me just real quick just kind of walk you through these past couple of years of being an LGBTQ+ member in the state of Indiana. We have been down to the State House, and we have fought back efforts of the HJR3, HJR6, where our state tried to define marriage between one man and one woman, and they tried to put that into our state constitution. And thanks to the efforts of Freedom Indiana, led by Chris Paulson and her staff and other folks, we were able to get that defeated. As if that wasn't enough, then we saw our state take up the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, also known as RFRA,
where myself and another organizer, Annette Gross from Carmel, we were able to organize a rally down at the State House where 3,000 people came out and stood in solidarity of folks here in Indiana. And then this past legislative session in 2018, we saw the defeat of the hate crimes bill, where they pulled the bill because of sexual orientation and gender identity. And frankly, this is only one of the reasons why I decided to jump into the race for the 2018 cycle. And so glad that I did, and I'm fresh on the job, 1 week on the job. So I have hit the ground running, but it was important for me to be here because I knew that I had to be here to continue to speak out on these issues. So, and a couple things have happened since then. Superintendent Jennifer McCormick, who is a Republican, has came out and said that funds going to schools like Roncalli should not be used for discrimination against students and staff members. And I totally agree with that. So I too would support legislation this coming session to make sure that we don't have that discrimination. I also believe that our schools need to be a safe place for our students and for their faculty. And I think that when you have a message such as the one that's being displayed against Shelly Fitzgerald, that is truly not the case. I came out, and so there's a lot that goes to that, right? And so we just need to make sure that our youth are supported, that they're protected, and frankly, that's the type of senator that I'll be. I want to be a senator who protects our children. I want to be a senator who protects the most vulnerable of all Hoosiers. And so I'm so honored and humbled to be elected to the state Senate, and I'm going to continue to use my voice and my platform to speak out. So again, thank you to all of the community members that have come today. Thank you to the media that has come today. Thank you to the professionals that are standing behind me. Thank you to the students for being inspiring to me. And certainly thank you to Shelly for allowing the opportunity to be here today. And with that, I'll be happy to take questions.
For anybody.
For anybody.
Ms. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
So, ma'am, if you can take the podium, please, ma'am. Good afternoon again to you.
Hi.
Ma'am, are you expecting now the Archdiocese to fire you? Is that what you're waiting for? But you can take action? Can you explain to us the status of where you stand on this position?
Yeah, I don't have any expectation that they will fire me. I haven't heard that coming from them, and so the expectation is, as it continues to be, for conversation. Just hope that one way or another that they let us know what's going on, that we can have conversation either moving forward, either in either direction.
So you would take a job back, ma'am, if Roncalli were to offer it back to you? I mean, under what, maybe your attorney will help, and I'm getting off base here, but would you accept the job back if the school came back and said, come on back?
Speaking for Ms. Fitzgerald, I don't see that in any way to be a possibility. I think that the discussions that have occurred, the time that has passed, the fact that they've hired other counselors, she's cleaned out her office, we don't see any going back at this point. And not to mention, I think that that would be disruptive for the school if that were to happen. That's not anything Shelly would want. But to answer your question, that's not even on the table. It's not even remotely a possibility.
I guess along that note, Shelly, after you've been on Ellen, you have gotten so much publicity, I'm sure, have other schools reached out to you asking you to join, and would you consider going to another school anytime soon?
I think that right now, just the focus is to continue to be to charge for change, and so I really haven't entertained any other job offers just yet. Just because I'm not in a position to be able to do that. I'm still employed by the Archdiocese of Indianapolis.
What are the grounds for the discrimination lawsuit? How did Roncalli break the law?
Well, we believe there was discrimination under Title VII. One, we believe there was selective enforcement of the contract. Two, there's no question it's discrimination. Roncalli has admitted this is discrimination. The Archdiocese has admitted this is discrimination. But they're clouding themselves in the freedom of religion and the ministerial exception, saying as a Catholic institution, we're entitled to discriminate. We take exception with that. The law in that area is evolving, and we intend to prove that discrimination on any level, especially with respect to this case, is wrong.
When when you say selective, sir, are you suggesting that the school system is aware of other situations in which it randomly picks who it wishes to enforce the rules on? Can you be specific?
I cannot be specific, but I know
can you clarify what you meant by that?
I know for a fact that the school is choosing who to enforce this contract against. I cannot be specific more than that, but I know for a fact they are choosing and selecting who to enforce these terms against. And she is the only person they have chosen to enforce this contract against.
Do you mean with this specific provision or just with the contract in general, any violation? Can you just clarify?
I'm talking about any violation of the contract terms with respect to what is deemed the morality clause. There are any number of people that are violating that on a daily basis. We're all human. We all make mistakes. I know for a fact there are some circumstances where that's being violated. They know about it, and they chose not to do anything about it.
Mr. Page, the Archbishop back in August in the Criterion talked about, in his words, that this was not about sexual orientation. In his words, he said he regrets the pain. This is about the church's teaching that marriage is between the covenant between a man and a woman. Do you believe that, sir?
I did not believe that for a minute. This is absolutely about sexual orientation. If she was not gay and not married to another woman, she'd still have her job.
Shelly, you said you don't want to change church teaching or change the Bible. Are you asking then the church, or the Archdiocese and the school not to uphold the church teaching?
Let me field that for you. What we're saying is that the church can still adhere to its teachings and still recognize the rule of law without having this situation. As Shelly touched on in her mission statement, Notre Dame is doing this. Marian University in our own city, which is a part of the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, is doing this. They allow LGBTQ workers. They allow for same-sex spouse benefits. The model is here. The model is a few miles from the Archbishop's home. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can do both. You can recognize the rule of law. You can honor the rule of law without abandoning your teachings.
Shelly, have you had any communication with the school?
No, I have not.
With the student, are you all Roncalli students?
Yes.
And do you mind identifying yourselves?
My name is Dominic Conover. There are officially 5 leaders of Shelly's Voice. That includes myself, Madison Aldrich, Anna Claude Felter, Elijah Mahan, and Raquel Ramsey. Unfortunately, at this time, our group will not be taking any questions.
But you're all Roncalli students?
We are.
Could you guys just spell your name?
Yes. For like an hour. Dominic Conover, DOMINIC Elijah Mahan, ELIJAHMAHAN. Anna Clodfelter, ANNA. Clodfelter, CLODFELTER. Raquel Ramsey, RAQUEL RAMSEY. Madison Aldrich, MADISONALDRICH.
Thank you. I feel like I'm at the National Spelling Bee. Does the press have any more questions that we can accommodate you in any way? If not, let's conclude it. Please, if you have any questions or you need any more information, contact me and I'll be glad to get it to you. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for what you're doing.